the advertiser's job is not to entertain the viewer. The advertiser's job is to make sure that the viewer remembers and recalls and also understands and engages with the brand or the product attributes to achieve scale and reach. Especially on marquee events like large cricket tournaments or very popular GEC shows, TV will play a big role. Having said that, where digital comes in is when you want to slice and dice and target and have razor sharp ROI-driven campaigns.
Hey there, welcome to Marketing Mavericks with IndieFolio. Today we have Pratip Francis with us, who's the General Manager Brand Marketing at MRF. Pratip's had an incredible career. He started off as an engineer and then he shifted to marketing. He sold electronics, bathroom fittings, tires, and done a lot of iconic campaigns throughout his career. He gives a lot of advice to young marketers, talks about the future of marketing, and covers his entire journey. Hey Pradeep, thanks for your time and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Kavan. Pleasure to be here.
I've done, I think, over 50 podcasts in this series. And I believe 70 to 80% of the people who've come on board who are CMOs have had an engineering background. And the first question I have for you is, how is it that you decided you want to build a career in marketing? You clearly, I think studied something else when you were in your early 20s. If you can talk about that story.
I completed my computer engineering in 2003. And those were the early years of the IT boom, so-called IT boom. And so out of my entire batch of computer, engineering batchmates, only 3 went in for MBA. Everyone else, 4 whole classes, I think, went into IT. I think what really, changed my mind about IT and then led me on this path towards management and then marketing was, those CAT test exams, mock exams that they run in the colleges. So I happened to just go for one without any coaching and then did fairly well. So I thought maybe this is the way forward.
As somebody who made that switch, and then now that you spend so much time, what do you think are some skills I should really think upon if I want to become a marketer? And the reason I ask you this question is, a lot of people who chime into the podcast are right now making some decisions. Maybe they've done engineering like you and they're thinking, should I get into UX UI, should I get into marketing or advertising? At this point in time, a lot of them are wanting to reflect that, okay, is marketing for me or not? And today marketing is a little confusing, right? Pehle it was like, you'll it's a fancy job and you have to be creative and you'll work with celebrities and make ads. Today there's a lot of talk around data, ROI, technology, and it's more strategic. So do I need to be more analytical? Do I need to be more creative? Who's the right person for a marketing job?
Kavan, the most important thing to remember is that marketing is not only about brand marketing. So, when you talk to anyone about, say, marketing to someone, the first thoughts that come to mind are advertising, campaigns, promos, billboards, print ads, TV commercials. But that's not what marketing is all about. Marketing also has a large portion which is product. So product management also happens to be, I would say, more important than brand marketing because without the product or the service, there's nothing to market. That part of marketing would definitely need analytical skills, project management skills, overall a technical bent of mind if you're talking about a consumer durable. But when you talk specifically about brand marketing, then, I always say this, that every Tom, Dick, and Harry is a marketer because we are bombarded. Any layman is bombarded by marketing, everywhere you look. So everyone has an opinion on marketing. Everyone, as a marketer or an experienced marketer, you'll always find people who come up to you saying, you should do this in TV or that on social media or this in digital. But you'll never find someone going up to the CFO and saying, in your P&L statement, you should put this line under that, or no one goes up to the supply chain person and says, instead of a full container load, you should bring in a half. So basically, marketing, why I, allude to this is marketing is basically, in my opinion, just common sense. I'll come to the performance, the marketing, new age digital marketing that you touched upon, but overall, generally speaking, marketing is nothing but common sense. It's not as technical as something in finance or, where you need to read up a lot and stay updated in terms of technical stuff. So yeah, so if you have that bent of mind and that nature, which offers a more commonsensical, practical approach, like you also mentioned, if you have a creative streak that can help to a large extent in brand marketing, then probably marketing is the avenue for you within management. But having said that, new age marketing, especially digital marketing, performance marketing, ROI-driven marketing, that does require technical know-how. But again, these are skills that you can pick up, knowledge that you can pick up on the job. Obviously, external courses help, but these are things you can pick up along the way. Your education doesn't necessarily have to build you up towards performance marketing.
Awesome. Um, I want to now talk about, the kind of fantastic brands you worked with. I think it's been almost 20 years, if I'm not wrong, if maybe more, maybe a little bit less. And be it faucets or electronics and, obviously tires right now, you've sold quite a varied bunch of things to a varied set of people. And there's a lot of advice given to young marketers, right? One is, stick to an industry, you become a champion, maybe you'll one day become a CEO, let's say BFSI for example. You'll understand the customers so well कि आप पूरा company run कर सकोगे. And then there is the other set of advice given saying get yourself to be uncomfortable, try and do various things. You'll sharpen your marketing skills and your first principles. So obviously you've done a variety of things, and I wanted to ask you any consumer behavior or any first principles of marketing you'd like to share with us which you've learned in the last several years.
Yeah, so before that, I'll just touch upon my experience having moved across industries, across products, and various stages of organizations, also from startups to well-established organizations. As a marketer, it really opens up your horizons. It gives you visibility, perspective across various industries and categories. So that does definitely help you as a marketer. If you are, let's say, in product management, then jumping across completely different categories, let's say bathroom products or interiors, electricals, and then tires might not be the right call over a long career. But specifically to brand marketing, it does open up your perspective and exposure to various sides of marketing, various kinds of things you can do across industries. Now, coming to the question about consumer behavior. So, one common thing that I've noticed across all the organizations, brands that I work with is that consumer behavior is very tough to change. You know, as marketers, we always feel that, we can come out with this very innovative campaign or idea that can, in some way, shape or form, shape consumer behavior to our needs, to the organization's needs. What I've realized is that those kind of things, that doesn't really happen very often. Most often, you have to just, the consumer knows what he or she wants, and you have to cater to that demand, that requirement, to the best of your capabilities. Very rarely does a true game changer or a customer journey altering innovation come up in the market. Examples like streaming coming in and Netflix overtaking everyone else. So those kind of consumer journey changing phenomena happen very rarely. Most of the time, as marketers, your job is to do the basics right and offer and market a good product or a service to your consumer instead of trying to change his or her behavior to suit your needs. That's what I've realized.
Any particular consumer behavior which is your favorite, like which will not change?
Interestingly, in some of the categories I worked in, they were hardcore touch and feel products where you had to go to the store and buy offline. Uh, and for the longest while, I thought that those categories would not move online. They still haven't in terms of pure direct to consumer online sales, but I'm seeing a shift. So to answer your question, I can't put my finger on any one behavior that cannot change over time.
Understood, very interesting. This reminds me of this real light scene of Jeff Bezos. And I think somebody had asked him what's going to change and what's next and what's new. And he said that it's a very common question which people ask, but what's uncommon is asking me questions as to what will not change, because that is actually the foundation of what you should do with your customer. And some examples he gave for Amazon was, they'll always want things cheap, they'll always want things fast, and they'll always want variety. And if you and this is like really earlier on, so if you really see Amazon and the kind of things they've done, that core is so strong and there was so much clarity that they really built out their offerings around that. So that kind of reminded me, of what you mentioned. So for a lot of marketers and business owners, really try and think for your category and for your consumer what will not change, because I think that could be a pretty rock solid foundation.
Exactly, so as marketers, we are also prone to a lot of FOMO, because in the age of digital, there's so much you can do, and it's all clearly visible what others are doing, what your competitors are doing, people are doing across industries, and so this FOMO sets in. Oh, yeah, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, and do everything. But the moot question to ask is, does it benefit your customer? So if it doesn't help the customer in any way, then probably ditch that for something which is more basic.
I think that's a great point. I often see like I'm in advertising and often see agencies and freelancers and studio owners get carried away so much with the idea because they want to do it for the heck of it, while forgetting does it really impact the customer. And I think that really resonate with what you just said. You mentioned about digital right now, and how people feel FOMO there. Um, I think when you were studying, I don't think there was any digital footprint. And I believe when you entered the job market, it was, I think you entered the job market 1 or 2 years before Facebook even became popular, or was it even a thing? Instagram was not there, Google was just picking up, penetration in India was just starting. I wanted to ask you that, in your entire career, was there any defining campaign or a defining moment which made you feel like, okay, digital is here to stay. In fact, it's probably going to overtake mainline.
So, I'll come back to the overtaking of mainline, but in terms of a campaign, some of the bigger or more relevant campaigns happened more recently, where, for example, in a recent campaign, we actually married traditional media with digital, so that we could leverage the greater reach of traditional media like TV, and then have a digital campaign leg to it, which could then supplement that. So digital overtaking traditional. See, my opinion is that several forms of traditional media, especially print, are dying out. There is still a niche segment that you can cater to, niche products, categories, services that you can cater to using print and certain other traditional media. Linear TV is still around, and it will be around for a long while. You might be aware, Kavan, that almost 50% of India still watches on cable, not even set-top boxes. So that media, that traditional channel of linear TV will continue, but there will come a time when everything will go digital. So till that happens, to achieve scale and reach, especially on marquee events like large cricket tournaments, or very popular GEC shows, TV will play a big role. Having said that, where digital comes in is when you want to slice and dice and target and have razor sharp ROI-driven campaigns. Nothing can beat digital. So we'll probably talk more about it as we go along here. But that is where, if once that builds up, then digital will slowly start overtaking traditional media, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Talking about that particular point of targeting, a lot of brands who want to become digital first or want to have a digital first strategy are now realizing that their lack of CRM capabilities are actually, making a big issue when it comes to actually understanding the customer. And CRM is a topic which I don't think a lot of people talk about. I wanted to, take this opportunity to even ask you, could you give a quick dipstick in terms of what is CRM and what is CRM marketing, and how can a marketer actually leverage a robust CRM system?
So I have implemented CRM in certain organizations, and I'm a firm believer that CRM is the future. You know, data currently is king, and it's going to be king for the foreseeable future. Why? Because now we are in the digital age. See, in the past, what happened is even if you collect information about customers, there was no way to target individual customers or groups or cohorts of customers because media was all traditional. But in the digital age, CRM has become ultra critical because you have the advantage of being able to target specifically. So I'll explain very in a nutshell what CRM refers to basically. CRM is nothing but knowing your customer. What that means is that you have a complete history of whoever is buying your product or even coming in contact with any of your touch points. It could be filling out a form in a retail store or restaurant or wherever, so that you build a history of your customer. When that person first made contact, what he or she asked for, what they purchased, any service related stuff, when they repurchased your product, so that you can then start customizing your marketing to that person. A very simple example would be if you call, for example, Samsung. If you had a product, you've had any kind of you've touched base with Samsung for service or warranty in the past, they will have a complete history of when you call them, what you asked for, what product it was for. So that is all built into their CRM.
Mm.
And now you have platforms, ready-made platforms like Salesforce, Zoho, and others who offer this on a platter. They have ready-made plug-and-play solutions. I have implemented some of them and worked on others in the past. So that's in a nutshell what CRM is. Now, why it is super important is because unless you know your customers, you'll have to depend on third-party targeting. For example, let's talk about the tire industry. I'm heavily reliant right now on Google or Meta giving me cohorts of people who are interested in tires. But that will be a large universe, and targeting might, not be as efficient as if I build a CRM database of my own of customers who have bought my product, who have repurchased my product, and who have maybe come in for service or things like that. Then that cohort is a cohort of loyal customers I can target again and again. And in talking specifically about tires, there's a certain level of loyalty built into the product because you typically, whatever tire you have on your vehicle is what you typically end up purchasing. The research shows maybe 25% of the time you go for the tire brand that's already on your product, on your vehicle. And secondly, it's a purchase that is predictable. So, if you have a two-wheeler customer, he or she will need a tire again in 3 years, or a four-wheeler customer will need one in 4 to 5 years. So, if you have that database of your existing customers, you know who to target and when to target. So, that is why CRM is going to play a big role in the future. And like I said, data is king, especially in the digital age.
I want to touch upon the personalized content funnels. I think you just kind of covered some time ago, where we spoke about your entire mix, right? Where you've used maybe even OTT, TV mixing with digital, and kind of having reach, mass plus digital tracking capabilities, but and targeting. But when it comes to now CRM, let's say I already know the kind of people I have, the kind of cohorts I have, there's a lot of pressure to create personalized content. What kind of content do you usually serve in CRM, right? Because you see brands, especially at the scale of brands you've worked at, they're doing brand campaigns, and you what kind of content do you usually use to feed this personalized content in your CRM system?
See, there could be two levels of personalization. Uh, I wouldn't, personalization probably would be the second stage. First might be customization. So if I know that a customer is a two-wheeler customer, I need not, serve four-wheeler tire ads to that person. I can stick to my two-wheeler because we have various product categories and various ads for each product category. So I can stick to the category that I know that customer is more prone to purchase. I need not waste or, show multiple categories to one customer. So that's the first level, which is sticking to a set of creatives and then serving them based on the exact need of that particular customer. Now, having mentioned this, it's not only my own CRM, but it's also data that resides in third-party platforms that I can use. Right now, the OTT players have not started monetizing vehicle ownership, and I keep telling all of them. I've told them you're sitting on a gold mine. If you can somehow capture the vehicle that a person owns, not just for industries like mine, but I'll tell you across industries, vehicle ownership is a very it's like gold dust. I'll tell you why. Throughout my career, I've never used NCCS or any of those classifications because in my opinion, those don't really work in India because they factor in education and having a degree into purchasing power in a country like India. And I've seen this having worked at luxury brands. It's not always the CXO who has the money. It's the small time businessman, small town businessman who has no degree or no high level of education who has the money. So
Right.
the only thing that defines, in my opinion, the purchasing power of a person is the vehicle that person owns. If you have the capability to buy a 30 lakhs car, you're not going to buy a 10 lakh or 15 lakh car. So similarly with someone who has a 5 lakh to 10 lakh car. So that's just one example of
Right.
how you can use data that already exists to create customized sets of ads that you can serve. Now it's going to the next level, which is the second level that I mentioned, which is personalized ads. And that is actually enabled because of AI. And it's still in very early stages, but we are working, and I know many brands are working with AI led agencies that can customize or, sorry, personalize the ad creative, where you have actors or voiceovers that actually talk to the person,
Mm.
addressing the person. So that's the next level. After customization is personalization, and I'm sure it'll reach that stage. Interestingly, Kavan, you also know an OTT platform like Hotstar. They already have, for example, a cricket tournament. They'll have 76,000 odd targeting cohorts. So you have,
Wow.
yes, you have by language, you have by geographical location, demographics, gender. So all of that, the team tells me, adds up to around 76,000 layering that levels of layering that you can do. So adding on more will add on to the complexity. So it'll be very interesting to see how the space evolves.
Sounds very exciting. And do you feel that a lot of the business as usual content will then need to become customized? Like for example, your creatives, your brochures, your cataloging. Do you see that that's an area which can see a lot of personalization?
See, it depends. If you're in a product category like ours, where we have specific products that only suit specific users or customers, then it will reach a stage where all marketers will look at ROI, and instead of showing my four-wheeler tire ad to a two-wheeler customer, I will start pushing for that level of customization.
Hmm.
And we are still, I would say, in the very early stages of digital marketing. We have a long way to go, and the more and more that traditional media gets replaced by digital, all of this will start factoring into performance marketing, and it will become the norm that you don't run one size fits all campaigns across the board. One campaign will have multiple creatives that will be customized. Platforms like Google already does that.
Hmm.
What you can do is you can feed a set of creatives into a Google, for example, Performance Max, and the AI automatically creates a custom combination of, let's say, the image or the video and the text and titles, and then feeds or serves it to what the AI deems as the relevant customer for that product category. So it's already happening at an AI level, but I'm sure more marketing teams will start using it more proactively.
Incredible. I represent a community of creative people, agency owners, founders of studios, and they when they hear stuff like this, they're like, oh my god, my job's going, Google and everybody's going to take my job away. And there's also the possibility that because you're democratizing content creation and personalization so much, maybe things will move in house, right? Like I've always said, maybe you are an AI accelerated marketing or an advertising company, but then a fair argument there is we'll just do it in house because Sam Altman spoke about how you can probably build $1 billion company with just one person in the future. You can argue that maybe immediately you can have a one-person marketing team. You don't need an agency. Do you feel that'll impact outsourcing, or do you think brands will always need an external partner for things like this?
Interesting question, and I often discuss this with our agencies. Um, so, their opinion, and I actually echo that, is that there'll always be a value add that will come with having an agency which has larger manpower with a lot more experience at
Hmm.
various levels across different fields of marketing, that you can never, or rather I shouldn't say never, but it'll be difficult to build that kind of capability in house, because you might be able to get a few maybe junior or mid-level managers to do the operational stuff, but the level of strategic thinking right down to the operational manpower that is needed, an agency can obviously supplement you with. And I actually have another take on it, is which is that many a time, because of various policies organizations have to adhere to, which are very different from the agency working culture and style of working, we struggle to get teams that can put in the kind of hours or the late evenings, or marketing often demands stuff to be done last minute, or even when out of outside working hours. So these kind of benefits an agency affords us, which is to outsource all of these issues and just focus on delivering the right marketing campaign.
Absolutely. And, I also echo the same. I feel that there's always going to be things a company will want to outsource. And as you said, I think, Funsuku Wangaru's advice and Three Idiots always stays true that if you are excellent in a particular area, even if it means adopting AI, like people will chase you down. So my advice always remains that, embrace AI, become the expert of creative automation. Because generally, there's been digital transformation and development automation and marketing automation. Now there's actually creative automation, and that's an entirely new ripe field which is out there to grab for a lot of young people today. um, I want to now shift gears into campaigns which sometimes don't work, and I wanted to know if if you can give me some idea as to when do campaigns actually fail, right? Like, maybe is there a pattern which you've recognized that this is what, if you do these things, the campaigns will fail? And if you can give an example, if you're okay, that'll also be awesome to hear.
Yeah, I mean, in a 20-year career, you do have a few of these along the way. Uh, but to your question on a common pattern that I've noticed across some of these that haven't done as well, is that marketing campaign typically fails for one of two reasons, in my opinion, and what I've seen commonality among some of the instances. One is if you have not started the project with by answering the simple question of why it is needed. It might sound silly that you start a project without having a clear why, but I'll tell you, many a times what happens is you start a marketing project with the what. I need to have this because it's fancy, or internally it sounds good, it looks innovative, creative, without answering the question, why is it needed for the customer, or what is the benefit or value add that you're giving the customer, which should be how any marketing campaign should start. Simon Sinek has written this very good book, Start with the Why. Although he talks about starting with more of a noble cause, but I break it down into every project. Just start with why. Why is that project needed? What is the benefit that will add to the consumer? Once you have a clear, concise answer for that, and a solid rationale, then you can get into, okay, what do we do to achieve this? When do we do it? How do we go about it? But you'll be surprised many times, marketing projects start with, okay, this is fancy. Like I said, FOMO, they are doing this, so let's do that. But why is it important for me? Sometimes comes as an afterthought, or you have to force fit that. So that's the first reason I've seen where certain projects fail. The second reason is, having an answer to why. You might start the project with, okay, I know why this is needed, but that probably didn't pan out. Might have been a gut feel, but it was the wrong, you can say, estimate or guesstimate. And I have had examples, especially during or right after COVID. We started certain projects thinking that now the world has moved online and offline store visits have reduced, traffic will reduce, people will want to do things from the comfort of their homes. Started a few digital only for projects, but didn't take shape or didn't succeed because we moved on from the pandemic and things went back to normal. So we did certain projects started with the right question, but the answer that we came up with was wrong. So these are two common reasons I've seen for creating a pattern.
On your last point, I think what that tells me is often the why changes, with times, and that's an interesting thing to think about. That maybe now that COVID hangover is over, the why has changed. I think EdTech learned it the very very hard way that they went all full throttle saying schools are done,
Yeah,
but the moment you could go back to your college's students any day preferred having batchmates and teachers teaching you and having those pre and post college or tuition experiences, and that's why they had to kind of push back on a lot of their efforts.
right. But you can't fault them on their thought process. I mean, it was a solid rationale when they started off, and if I had continued in that vein, EdTech would be somewhere else today. But yeah, so you can't fault them on the answer to the question they started with, but then times change, things change.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. Um, I want to now talk about first more advantages, and I think if somebody spends a few minutes on your LinkedIn, you've explained quite a few examples of a lot of times you've tried newer things or tried things for the first time, and while I think a lot of times you hear people saying, first mover is extremely advantageous, there's also a lot of chatter around, like Apple is very famous for this, right? Where they don't like to be the first mover, they like to be the best. So how do you really balance that particular aspect, right? Like when do you know that it's the time to be first? When do you know that you should assess that and then maybe be the best? If you could give your take on that.
So, I have a very interesting take on this whole first mover piece, which is that. So let me ask you, how do you win in business? If I were to ask you, how do you win in business?
Make something a lot of people want again and again.
Yeah, so you hit a part of the answer that I was looking for. So it's basically a trick question. You cannot win in business because, unlike a game or a sport, business doesn't have a fixed duration or timeline. So you can't say that, okay, after 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, I'm number one or number two, or, I'm the leader in this category, so I've won. You cannot say that because unlike a game, there's no deadline. The goal of business is to make money for as long as possible. It's basically to self propagate forever and keep making money. So there's no end point where you can say that you won. And in fact, again, another book by Simon Sinek called The Infinite Game, where he explains exactly this, philosophy, where he says that, the goal of business is not to become number one or number two at the end of 10 years or something. Those might be milestones, and for managers who come and go, that could mean a lot, but for the business itself, that's meaningless. The whole point of business is to keep continuing. So why I'm talking about this is, first mover does give you a leg up. It gives you the initial penetration. It might even make you a clear clear leader with daylight between you and the second next, but that doesn't mean that you won. What's important is that you continue to focus on the basics, keep giving the consumer, the customer, what he or she wants, and do it for as long as possible. So, even in our industry right now, there are examples. For the last 35 years, we've been the leaders in India. But long ago, more than 3, 4 decades ago, there were brands that, like Modi, Firestone, and Cooper, and all, which actually fell by the wayside. You don't Dunlop, you don't see these anymore. So they were the first. They came in with technologies that no one else had. They were the leaders for a long while, but you can't really say that that first mover benefited them, because they all actually um, did did not propagate for as long as possible.
I think that's a brilliant take. I haven't read the book, but I've heard about the concept of playing infinite games. And one tweet I think compared it to a relationship, where they were like, if you're about to kind of get married, or if you're married, a lot of people try to win marriage or win love, saying this is what it is. But if you really want a healthy relationship, if you really want an extremely good partner, you have to play it in an infinite way. You have to wake up every day and reinvent what that means for you. Those are the most successful couples or partners, versus you trying to be, hey, this is what I want and this is what it should be and this is who this person should be. You'll probably never be happy. So I absolutely love this concept. I want to now talk about, um, generally, I see a lot of marketing folks today uh, join legacy brands, and you've also been in various legacy brands. And um, what happens there? And I have a few friends actually who've done, the top tier colleges, and they've joined them, and they sometimes feel that it's very hard to be brand new to compete with this new wave of CPG companies while still maintaining the legacy, right? Because there's so much wrong, like there are so many avenues you can go wrong on, and there's always been a big tussle between being legendary as they have been as a brand, plus being fast and modern and new and reinventing things. As you have also actually tried a lot of newer things, and maybe you've tried a lot of initiatives in your companies which were the first time they were done. Could you tell us, if you are in a legacy brand, like how do you balance out respecting the legacy and leveraging that, but also still being brand new and attracting millennials and Gen Z and things like that?
So it's a coincidence that we are sitting a few days after the recent Jaguar rebranding, which I'm sure the jury is still out on whether it will succeed or not. But initial feedback is not great, where they've tried to go very, uh, I would say, way different from their legacy. So it's not the job of the marketer to come in and change things just for the sake of changing things, even if it's in a digital environment. So we are very careful with that. And in fact, we have a saying that we are not here to win creative awards. We are here to sell our product, market our product. And so what we do is we try and create ads or creatives that stick to the core message, reflect the philosophy and ethos of the brand without deviating too much from that. And
Mm.
there is a temptation often, especially in the AI age and digital age, where marketing teams as well as agencies, want to do something creative and innovative all the time. But once again, we must remember that we are not here to win creative awards. And having adjudicated many of these marketing awards, I do see that seeping in, where everyone concerned in the marketing ecosystem tries to you know do something one up over the other brands or across agencies, where creativity is at the forefront, where you sacrifice the core message of the product or the service. See, we must remember that the advertiser's job is not to entertain the viewer. The advertiser's job is to make sure that the viewer remembers and recalls and also understands and engages with the brand or the product attributes. And that's what we try to stick to. There's also another thing that many of the most creative ads will be remembered by the viewer, but they might struggle to recall which brand that ad was for. It'll be a very quirky, funny, or emotional ad that you can clearly remember, but
Mm.
you struggle to remember which brand it actually stood for. There are obvious examples like the Make My Trip or the Cred ads, which are funny, quirky, but also register the product and the brand. But generally speaking, we in legacy companies, I think we should stick to the ethos of the brand and keep bombarding, reinforcing the core message of the product and the brand.
Fantastic. So I think the core has to remain constant, but I think the communication is where, or the formats or the way to talk about it can have variety. And I think
Yeah.
that's an opportunity for a lot of people. I think, as you said earlier on in the first question itself, people try to change core consumer behavior or core consumer behavior towards your brand, but that doesn't happen. And I think young marketers tend to try to kind of change that without really understanding the core, and that's why I think they end up struggling quite a bit. Had a dual role at the earlier stages of your career in marketing and sales. My first question actually to you on that was, while having while engineering as a background is very common for CMOs, sales as a first job is also very common for CMOs. Do you feel that today young marketeers or ambitious marketeers must do sales in the start?
So I wouldn't go so far as to say must, but it would definitely be, advantageous, and it did benefit me a lot. because it just gives you the it inculcates that ground reality, the of what happens in the market, in the field, at the dealer point, at the point of sale. What is the customer looking for? What is he or she asking for? What drives that demand? What is the customer journey? These are basic, cues that you pick up. You might not be intentionally looking for them, thinking that okay, tomorrow I'm going to get into marketing, but these are things you absorb when you spend time in the field. And obviously, it also helps you later cater to the sales team's requirements, because let's not kid ourselves. Marketing at the end of the day is a support function for sales. So it's important to understand not just what the customer wants, but also what the sales team requires, what will help them in their role to sell the product or service. So I would say it is, and I do give this advice to youngsters, especially if they're looking to build a career in marketing, that a stint in sales, even if it's a short one, and even if it's not towards the beginning of their career, in the middle of my career also, I took on stretch responsibilities where I handle sales both domestically as well as internationally, and that also opened up horizons and gave me exposure to aspects of the business that I didn't have earlier. So I would definitely advise going for a sales stint.
Any example you have where you were doing sales and you learned a particular insight which really informed your marketing strategy?
So I would say what I did learn is what they call a rookie mistake in sales, where, like I said, in the middle of my career, I took on a sales stint, and this I took on a target, but then I over delivered by if close to 100%. So did almost 200% of the target in the first year, in full josh and enthusiasm. And that's when I realized the next year's target would be 250%, not 150%. So that's a rookie mistake that happens when you take up sales at a later stage in your career. But in terms of marketing, yes, I mean, a lot of recent, campaigns that I've driven, especially at a hyper local marketing level, where we are driving online traffic towards the stores, where I understood how sales happen at a POS level. Because sitting, just in the HQ and planning these hyper local campaigns at a store level becomes difficult if you've not had that experience on the ground level.
Fantastic. So are you saying that even as a CMO you do field visits and you talk to customers?
Not as much now, but yes, in many of my stints, even at mid to senior levels, we made it a point to visit the market, because that's how you get a pulse of the market, and just interacting with the sales team, not necessarily with the customer, the sales team, your dealer network, all of that really influences. That really does help you then customize and cater campaigns to them.
Incredible. I think I see a huge trend, and I'm a millennial. It's not like I'm very old, but I see a lot of millennials, especially Gen Z, just not wanting to go out of their house, pick up the phone and just talk to people, and they just rely on dashboards, thinking, "Chal, I'll get all the insights through quantitative data." But I do sales for Indiefolio as the co-founder, and I think the feedback loop is like extremely exciting, right? You immediately know कि ये जो बोल रहा है, मतलब, am I saying the right thing? Is it even going inside the customer the moment you talk to five people? So I really hope that this jolts a lot of people who are currently just sitting in lower parallel, and in AC thinking, yeah, I'm doing some hyper local piece for some random tier 3 city, to actually book a flight, book a train, and go there and actually see what's happening with their marketing activities.
What I've noticed is that there is a lot of impatience, and no one wants to go through the hard yards of putting in operational, a few years of operational work in the field, or even within marketing, handling marketing operations for a while before getting into slightly senior roles, because that sets the foundation for you for senior roles. Most youngsters today, in fact, they just want to do strategy. Fresh MBAs coming into the corporate, environment, they expect to be sitting in corporate strategy meetings and doing high level stuff. Uh, in fact, so what they don't realize is that while they might have been at the highest or higher levels of education, having done a post graduate degree or something, when you come into the corporate world, you're still starting out at the bottom, and there is a ladder to be climbed. So again, like you said, put in the hard yards, build your operational foundations, and then things become easier later on.
Absolutely. I think I constantly remind myself of founders of really large companies, right? And how they started. Like Jeff Bezos delivered the first few books. Brian Chesky of Airbnb actually met and lived with the people, who booked the first few Airbnbs. So that shows and tells you so much that you have to get your hands dirty if you really want to understand customer experience and the customer funnel and the customer flow, if you want to make an impact. So some brilliant advice there. uh, we spoke a lot about digital, we spoke a lot about personalization, we spoke about AI being data driven. And one critique a lot of creative people have been having these days is, they say, clients now or my brand managers now are like, I don't care about the creative, man. Give me 20 options, I'll see which works. And I think more and more, like, I think creativity is dying down, and this term ROI is picking up more and more. And some creative people feel, yeah, I think creativity is dead now. I think people don't really care. They're like, performance pe 100,000 adapts dalenge, they'll see what works and then they'll just double down on that. So how do you really balance, creativity with this performance and ROI driven world we live in? And maybe if I can add another question, does creative of an asset really help drive more ROI? Like, for example, if something is more creative, does it really get you more visits or more conversions?
Okay, so on the first question, it's very interesting. I find that the agencies are complaining about clients asking for more creatives. I'll tell you why. So we work with some of the bigger agencies in the country, uh, and almost all the concepts that are delivered nowadays are purely AI driven. You can churn out hundreds of creatives right from the tagline, including your logos, everything. You can even embed your product into it. So I'm slightly surprised that agencies would complain about having to churn out a lot of creatives. But yes, to answer your second question about the power of the creative, I think it does play a big role. And because we are in the digital age, the numbers also bear that out. For example, and we've tried this out ourselves. We've tried various, if I can call them, various catchiness levels of creatives on Insta, for example, and we've seen how the cost, it could either be CPM or CPE, cost per engagement, varies among these. The power of the creative does matter, in my opinion. And like I mentioned, platforms like PMax also, the AI builds its own creative. You just feed in a set of images, videos, descriptions, taglines. It then customizes, builds the best performing one, so that it takes that headache also off your hands as well as the agencies.
Brilliant. I think this is so good to hear that you're actually trying this out and you've got actually data backed answers on where this is actually stands. So I think it's a hybrid, and um, I feel the people complaining are not the agencies but the designers in the agencies, right? Where they are like, why is it that, why can't they just tell me that this is going to work? They are demanding for more. Agencies are billing more, but the creatives are like, you know
Yeah.
just listen to me. But I hear you completely. um, I'm going to go to the last section now of our podcast. This is the last two questions, we're almost at time. I obviously must ask you about where you see marketing is going. I think we've discussed mainline was big, digital is big. Now people are like, digital is dead, influencer is the next thing, and people are like, influencer is dead, now UGC is the next thing. There's next things that are coming everywhere. Personalization, we spoke about quite a bit. So what are you the most excited about in terms of a trend I should be really serious when considering my marketing plans for the future?
So I'm really excited about customization and personalization. Personalization. We talked about it earlier, which is where you get into ultra sharp targeting of cohorts, individuals even, and then start serving him or her the most relevant ads. So that really excites me because the future is going to be digital. It's only a matter of time before traditional media dies out. And once it's all digital, then I don't think one size fits all campaigns will run. then it's going to be extremely customized marketing, right down to an individual levels. And you know, it's actually bad for me as a consumer, but good for me as a marketer that countries like India are completely Android driven. We spend almost all our digital lives on the Google ecosystem. So that's a pool of data, consumer habits, behaviors, demographics, likes, interests, dislikes, emotions, all of that, which is getting built up over all these years. And there's going to come a time in near future when all of that is going to be monetized to a level that we've not seen till date.
So if I'm a young 20-year-old marketer, and if I want to kind of embrace this trend, what do I do? Like, do I learn something? Do I get a job around this? Is there a particular topic, podcast, book which will teach me more about this? Any advice?
Some of the advice, unsolicited advice I give to youngsters, because let's face it, youngsters today are not as amenable to advice, probably as maybe earlier generations. And, people of my vintage can't hold back from giving advice. So it's double whammy. But yeah, so some advice I give to youngsters who are looking to make it big in marketing is one, keep your eyes and ears open. You don't necessarily have to do a lot of courses, but at least keep abreast with what is happening, not just within your category or industry, but also adjacent categories and adjacent industries, as well as across industries. And today, with everything being made available online, it's democratized. Information, especially about marketing and what others are up to, is easily available. So just keep your eyes and ears open. Try and read up, go through as much content as possible so that you know what's happening out there. And second is, look for inspiration. It can come from anywhere. So one of the things about being a marketer, looking for inspiration, as I mentioned earlier, everyone has an opinion on marketing and how it should be done. One of the aspects to that is being open to taking feedback and suggestions. So like I said, people come up to me giving me suggestions on how I should be doing my job, but I don't look at that as necessarily a bad thing. Inspiration can come from anywhere. So part of the process of keeping your eyes and ears open is to be receptive to any kind of suggestion, because you never know what idea can work in marketing. And then obviously just stick to the basics, start with operations, build your foundations, and then climb up the ladder, hopefully.
Fantastic. Pradeep, thank you so much. I think this marks the end of the podcast. You've been brilliant and given some really golden advice to everybody. I hope you had fun.
Yeah, I did. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It was great interacting with you. I did. I have had a lot of fun. Thanks.
I'm so glad. And, for everybody who's tuned in so far, if you'd like to hear another marketing leader, do like, share, and subscribe to our podcast. New episode will come out very, very soon. Thank you.